Hello and welcome everyone. We're very happy to host today's Adjust webinar in partnership with ironSource. I'm Josh Jones, Product Education Specialist with Adjust. We're going to be looking into user-level ad revenue and how you can benefit from this granularity of measurement as a mobile marketer. Joining me today is Yevgeny Perez, VP of Growth at ironSource. Yevgeny, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi guys, welcome to this important webinar. My name is Yevgeny, the VP of Growth at ironSource. Spending most of my time with app developers on growth strategies, which tools, processes, and products basically we can help to fuel their growth. I'm very happy to talk about this, the context of this product, and how it impacts our product strategy and how it's implemented within Adjust. So we're gonna dive into basically kind of a broad definition of what is exactly a user-level ad revenue, the current status of measurement for the purpose of return on ad spend optimization, the problem this specific product solves, and obviously the benefits of measuring that data. Josh is going to cover how mobile marketers can get started on the Adjust platform. Then we're going to summarize with which new capabilities are unlocked and key learnings from this product so far. And we're going to finish with some company overviews. So what is exactly user-level ad revenue? Essentially, we're talking here about a product that is giving app developers the measurement capability to accurately understand how much each user generates when it comes to ad engagements. And then in order to make this actionable, the challenge, which is supported by Adjust in terms of solution, is how do you make that data actionable when it comes to understanding where did these users come from, which channels, which campaigns, which creatives, to make this part of your growth strategy. One thing that I think is critical for this webinar is to understand where exactly this product fits within your app and growth strategy. When you think about your app, basically once it's ready, you've built it, you have your product in place, and you're trying to basically ramp it up and start growing things. One of the first thing you're starting with is acquiring users to have people engage with the product. We basically bring people from the market inside your app, either through paid user acquisition or you have organic users step into the app. The second step when you think about this loop would be how do you monetize those users? So whatever strategy you're using when it comes to monetization, whether it's ad monetization or IP, basically that's kind of where people engage with the product and they move on, hopefully after generating revenue. The next step would be after seeing how people engage within your app is measuring their engagement and then analyzing what exactly can be done in order to optimize monetization for the purpose of maximizing LTV. And then to close that loop, basically, and become smarter tomorrow and acquire more users profitably tomorrow, you'll need to analyze all this loop together, understand where exactly those users came from, how did they interact with the app, how do they monetize, what can I learn better on my UA and retargeting efforts in order to maximize profit. Where at the end of the day, you have the operation split into optimizing and maximizing LTV within the app, and then maximizing profit within your growth operation. When you think about how ad revenue is generated, at the end of the day, for each user that comes into the app and is engaging with ads, whether it's banners, rewarded videos, video interstitials, playables, off-walls, whatever that user is engaging with, there's a platform behind the scenes that is maximizing the revenue for that specific impression. And that is basically handled through our mediation platform, where at the end of the day, each impression served would be different per user based on how the different demand channels are trying to bid on that user and compete for that impression. Where at the end of the day, today the market is still transitioning from the waterfall era to the programmatic, and that's something I'm going to touch a bit later. But at the end of the day, each user has its own journey when it comes to ad engagement, and which ads exactly are shown, how much revenue that generates, and that's different per user, just like in a purchase, where each user either purchases or not, and each user engages with that in a different way.
When it comes to ad revenue, performance has been reported over dashboards and APIs historically, but only in an aggregated way, where you could only know how much revenue was generated on a certain day for certain breakdowns, not giving you any insights into which specific users generated those revenues, how much did each user contribute to that, and which channels did those users come from. In this slide, you can see an example of anonymized ad revenue data for a mutual client of Just and ironSource. In this example, it's the month of May where $300,000 were generated for two apps, one Android and one iOS app. And it's very difficult to understand what exactly does this mean when trying to understand what my next step should be when you think about optimization.
This is basically what this product is about. It's about measuring the ad revenue generated by each user, so you can take the right actions within your growth strategy. When it comes to the current state of measurement for the purpose of a return on ad spend, so the ad spend is covered when it comes to cost, but when you think about return, there's a big gap in the market that is around ads. So it's specifically for ad-based apps, when you think about user acquisition, because there was no way until a year ago when we launched this product to understand when exactly that ad engagement occurred for each user and how much revenue did that generate. It comes to the point where people have to be optimizing acquiring users based on retention, assuming that a certain retention curve will generate a certain amount of revenue. ROAS optimization was not really possible for ad-based apps. So what people were basically doing is bidding based on average LTV. So assuming a certain LTV in certain markets, and basically bidding the same CPIs across all channels per market, which is crazy when you think of it. The most common approach was the peanut butter approach, where basically there was an assumption in place of, if I'm generating 80% of my total revenue from IP and 20% from ads, then I should apply basically a 25% peanut butter on top of all of my ROAS IEP only strategy. A lot of people just gave up on ad revenue and just treated it as a nice bonus. And a few companies try to hack it themselves within their own BI stack, applying some basic methodologies to assume how much revenue each user generated. So at the end of the day, a very big gap between IEP versus ads. The best analogy that I'm usually thinking of is, think about not knowing how much each user generated from in-app purchases, and the only thing you can rely on is your iTunes Connect account or your Google Developers Console, seeing your overall revenue from yesterday or last month and trying to make it actionable, which is crazy. So most of the data was aggregated when it comes to ads, and how exactly is that transition to the actionable level of how much each user generates. That would be the challenge. Making it actionable basically is impossible without connecting it to the attribution data. And when you think about a platform like Adjust that supports the optimization decisions and measurement decisions, that data needs to be connected in order to be actionable, and we're going to cover it a bit later. At the end of the day, attributing each user to where it came from and understanding how much revenue is attributed to that user gives you that complete picture of true ROAS. The way it looks like, the way it looked like until recently, basically. So within the app, you would have your attribution SDK. In this case, we're talking about the Adjust perspective. So there's a lot of user engagements that are passed back to the attribution platform. It'd be for in-app event, postbacks, any events, any level completes, tutorials, registrations, the sessions, and essentially the revenue would be passed through the in-app purchase events. And then basically you can easily funnel this back to your BI stack, or just use the dashboard for understanding your data. And then those measurement insights are basically funneled through the UA team, where they consume that data and decide how to optimize on all the different user acquisition platforms. The monetization, when you think about it, the monetization is covered by a different entity within the same app. So there's a different entity that knows exactly which user engages with which impression from which channel and how much revenue that engagement generates. But that historically was just aggregated in that in a similar report that I showed a couple slides ago. And that's the challenge that basically we're trying to tackle when we started working on this almost 2 years ago. And when it comes to our thought process, we were very focused on making something that is seamless when it comes to integration. We really wanted to avoid having tens of thousands of developers reintegrate our SDK and go through the troubleshooting process instead of them investing in other product roadmap features. The zero discrepancies point is critical when you think about data. The second people judge the data based on the accuracy, it loses all the trust, and basically, even though data is flowing, it's not being trusted to really make things work. And since the way the data is flowing through these pipes, and in many cases, there's some revenue changes coming in from the demand sources, where some revenues changed after the fact, some revenues coming in after the fact. So it was very critical for us that at the end of the day, when you look at the total number of revenue generated in that platform, and you summarize your column of data from revenue generated yesterday, it ends up being the same number. And we wanted to make it actionable. Without being trustworthy, it's not actionable. Optimizing cost of data is critical when you think about ad-based apps, ad-heavy apps, mostly games. The amount of ad engagement can reach 50, 100 engagements per user, sometimes even per session, and that's a lot of data to deal with. So we basically focus on optimizing that part as well, which we assume can be a big roadblock here. And at the end of the day, when you have things actionable and connected to the attribution sources, you want to close the loop on user acquisition automation. So if you know how much each user generated, where it came from, how do you automate that loop to make things move faster, grow your business, and moving on. When you think about how much revenue each user generates from ads, each user has different ads served to them, different networks, different DSPs bid on it, whether it's programmatic, which some of our beta clients can see these days, or through the combination of bidding, programmatic, and waterfall. You would see that today, basically, and that's something that hopefully will be shifted to a new paradigm shift pretty soon. But the fact that today is that most of the market is monetizing through what is called multiple instances, where each network is ordered with a specific CPM price point, where that network decides whether or not they would like to bid that specific value for that specific impression for that specific user, or pass to the next available down the line. So at the end of the day, each user engages with different ads, different ad placements, different ad products, and there's different channels bidding different values for each. And at the end of the day, the entity that is mediating all those engagements is the entity that really knows how much revenue that specific engagement generated. When you can combine that with user acquisition data through Adjust or any other attribution platform, the value that you basically see here is that you see organic users behave differently with specific ads compared to other users that were acquired from other sources. Think about how people engage with rewarded products, and if they're educated about these products and the value exchange behind them or not. And basically that tells you a completely different story when you start looking at your user acquisition data and start making actions. So basically, what we launched is the capability to provide that data to the attribution platforms or your BI stack, and can be consumed in a way that can truly make it actionable because of the lack of discrepancy. the optimization of cost data, no required SDK updates. It's basically seamless. You basically flip a switch, and you see this, as I'm going to show in the next couple of slides. And that's basically the beauty of this product, that it fully paints the true average revenue per user picture when you think about ARPU optimization. And when you look at the raw data, you can truly see, just like in our purchase, how much each user generated, which exact sources did they engage with, for how many impressions, which placements, which segments, and also take that into account when you're trying to optimize and maximize your ad monetization. This is a snapshot from the Adjust platform that is anonymized for another mutual client of ours, and you can see that this basically provides you with a full picture of how many users came from which source, all their top of the funnel engagement, impressions, click-through rates, clicks, and many other columns that can be custom added to this dashboard. And then, as part of your revenue measurement, you can see the amount of revenue events happening, the revenue generated by that cohort, but also the ad impressions. How much, how many impressions were generated by these 135,000 users? How much ad revenue does that generate? And what is the ad revenue per mil that is generated here? And already in this snapshot, you can see that users that are coming from different sources, organic, different UA channels, are behaving completely differently when it comes to how exactly the demand sources are bidding on those users. When you download a snapshot of that, in this specific example from the previous slide, we're talking about a game developer that has 55% of his revenue coming in from in-app purchase and 45% is coming from ads. So theoretically, if they apply the peanut butter approach, they can just double their bids. But when you look at the sources here, you can see that there's a completely different picture with how those users are engaging with in-app purchases and with ads. Some channels are heavier on in-app purchase, like channel A, which looks very close to organic users. And the further you go down, you can see that there's a completely different examples here. Look at the lines H, I, and J, where and K would be the most extreme one, where most of the revenue is actually coming from ads, which would be 5x in these cases, 4x and 11x the revenue here. And that is pretty critical when you think about growing profitably and making the right decisions. And this is something that is eye-opening. Across the board, it's pretty interesting to see that organic users are actually behaving in a completely different way with ads, less engaging with ads, has a much more different appeal when it comes to those users. And when you think about it, it makes sense. If someone is coming in from a rewarded video, they will most likely convert through a rewarded video or an offer wall when you think of it. And this is a great example that tells that story. I'm going to pass the mic to Josh.
Super. Thanks a lot, Evgeny. So that was very interesting to see some of those differences between in-app purchases and ad revenue and see those comparisons. So we've seen a bit about what user-level ad revenue is and the current state of ROAS measurement. So I wanted to talk a bit now about what exactly marketers can do with it and what are the benefits. So knowing ad revenue at the device level is key for advertisers to understand their return on ad spend so they can accurately measure the efficacy of their mobile advertising campaigns. Advertisers already had their in-app events counted with the corresponding revenue on the Adjust platform. However, there's still a need to correlate those individual purchase events with user-level revenue generated by advertising. So user-level ad revenue from ironSource gives advertisers that important other stream of income from their app so they can confidently retarget their valued users, invest in new campaigns, gauge user journey, and cross-promote their other apps. So specifically, knowing user-level ad revenue ensures that advertisers can spend on ad campaigns that generate a positive return on investment. So prior to this solution, as Yevgeny said, BI and marketing analysis for advertisers left aggregated, averaged ad revenue mixed for all their users. Advertisers can know how much they spent on a campaign by visiting the ironSource or the Adjust dashboard, and they could know in total how much revenue was being generated in return. However, they wouldn't know which fraction of those users were generating the vast majority of ad revenue. So just because a user acquisition campaign isn't running a long-term deficit, of course, doesn't make it the best strategy. So having that granular level of detail massively changes the picture. So you can optimize and deliver the best possible experience to the most users. We'll see some examples of this in just a few minutes. So thanks to the API provided by ironSource, Adjust can now do the heavy lifting of passing so many additional data points to advertisers, so they don't have to create their own integration. Advertisers are already leveraging Adjust's raw data offering, so they're receiving ad attribution, the events, and many other useful data points. So this is a huge cost saving for an advertiser's technical infrastructure. They can get all of this data the same way they already get it, and there's no additional cost to their infrastructure, basically. So knowing exactly which users generate positive ad revenue means you can repeat your successes with precision, and that's just an incredible value. So now we know about some of the benefits and what marketers can do with this user level ad revenue, and let's take a quick look now at how it works with the slide right here. So we're going to start right at the beginning on a user's phone. The user opens the app and an ad is requested. As the mediation platform, ironSource will serve a network's ad which best fits the publisher's criteria. So once the ad is shown inside the app, an ad impression is generated, and ironSource records the advertising ID of the device, the associated revenue, the ad placement information, and any other relevant details. And this is possible, of course, because ironSource's SDK is present inside the app. So that's an important first step. But now that ad impression information should be paired with all the other marketing data that advertisers need. So because of this integration, Adjust can then inquire and record the same ad revenue information. That's the critical new piece, which allows individual ad revenue to be paired with the device's advertising ID, which is, of course, a privacy-sensitive way to identify the device. That is what allows advertisers to achieve that new level of granularity at the user level. So once Adjust has this data, so now we're on the fourth point of the picture there, Adjust has this data from ironSource's API. We provide it to advertisers in real time. So Adjust already has a robust and privacy-sensitive raw data offering for advertisers. The ad revenue data from ironSource will now be included with the other vital statistics that Adjust provides. So that's the ad attribution data, in-app purchases, KPIs from multiple marketing channels, etc. So once app developers have this data, they can correlate the ad revenue per device along with any in-app event to know the total income they have from a device. They can compare that income with the cost of acquiring the user, and thus they have the return on ad spend. So that's just the very first step for further analysis. Okay, so now we know a bit how this integration works with user level ad revenue, and I'll turn it back over to Yevgeny now to see how marketers have already used this feature.
Thank you, Josh. Diving into some of the new capabilities that are really unlocked here, focused on user acquisition, though there's some insights I'm going to share in the end around ad monetization optimization as well. This is probably the biggest paradigm shift that this capability unlocks when you think of it, is that before you couldn't really build cohort analysis that includes all of your data. You basically had only your IP revenue, which means only the red part at the bottom. And now with this capability, you can truly build that cohort analysis that combines both ads and IP, and for the first time basically gives you the full ARPU picture. In this case, it's by day 90, and then this will help you build the right LTV prediction curves and allow you to really understand better what is happening here and how can you turn this into the right UA strategy. When you look deeper, there's a lot of interesting insights that this thing unlocks, which when you look at the two examples on the right, which is a day 30 analysis for a certain cohort, you can see that how different each app behaves when it comes to how revenue accumulates in-app purchases versus ads. This is basically something that helps give a lot of visibility into how users behave and engage, and you can test and iterate better on monetization products, better IEP, and better for both IEP and ads. For the first time, it also allows you to build true return on ad spend goals without any peanut butter. And this is basically where we took action on really making this scalable. Where now that you have the capability to really define better return on ad spend goals based on your cash flow and your profit strategy. The challenge here is now really moving from this before state where you're kind of bidding based on average LTV or trying to optimize retention on your UA side. There's not much you can do to really change bids. Within our user acquisition platform and also within the Adjust platform, it gives you a full return ad spend picture per source, per subsource. And now, for the first time, you can decide on bidding strategy and take action based on this full view user level measurement. And you can also take action using automatic bid optimizers to meet those return ad spend goals to really help you operationally within your growth team. On our user acquisition platform, this is how it looks like. Very similar to Adjust perspective. This is specifically for the ironSource user acquisition platform, where it gives you full visibility into how much are you bidding per each user, what's the top of the funnel look like, what's their installs per mil behavior, and then down deeper to retention and in-app purchase data. And when you look at this example, this is only in-app purchase data. So you have RunRabbit running user acquisition on all these different games, and Hit the Clown and Talking Cat generating this much of in-app purchases, this kind of the before. And when you combine in-app purchase and ad revenue, a completely different picture is now unlocked. And just like in the example a couple slides ago, this is for the first time where you can feel confident that you have a full picture of measurement. On top of that data, you can either basically decide on bidding strategies that applying different bids for each of these dimensions, and you can obviously go deeper, or you can upload bulk upload a list of all these bids through a CSV bid manager, or you can just apply the ROAS optimizer, which until we released this product, our optimizer only supported in-app purchase apps, and now it's kind of unlocking this capability of really applying your new ROAS goals for your ad-based apps. And in order to improve profitability, you would like to basically define that goal, turn on the optimizer, and let this optimize on your behalf, where the goal is basically scaling this up while meeting your ROAS goals. And there's a big difference when you try to do this manually, obviously, in terms of capacity, in terms of monitoring this in real time. And at the end of the day, you might as well let the machines do that while you're monitoring this. And in this example, we're seeing one of the few examples. This is something that you can look up on our website. It's a case study we did with one of our clients, where basically your ROAS really improves no matter how good you are doing this manually. It just leaves a lot of time and room to do other stuff while you're monitoring this and not really investing in bidding. Kind of summarizing what we have so far, and kind of within this product and this specific integration with Adjust and how it's done seamlessly, where you just unlock this and you just have it. The first thing that really happens for the first time is measurement really covers everything on the user level. And then thanks to that, you can make it count with actionable insights when you understand where those users came from within the UA platform or within the Adjust platform. And then this unlocks the capability to really run true return ad spend campaigns, define goals, and provide granular bidding. The interesting impact here is also on the ad journey. When there's things that you can optimize through segmentation, where you can actually understand better how the different segments behave based on where they came from. So if you understand that organic users, for example, do not engage well with banners, this is something that you can decide using segmentation and deep linking to decide not to show banners to these kind of ads, these kind of users. You can also understand the impact of ad revenue and in-app purchase per user. For example, you can test how did adding a rewarded video ad placement impact your in-app purchasing from these specific users. So if my in-app purchase revenue went up after adding this placement for those users that engage with rewarded video, maybe there's a positive impact here, or maybe there's not, and then take action. And at the end of the day, this is something that unlocks that capability of accelerating that growth loop through full measurement. And this is a great example of a product that touches all 4 steps of the growth loop. It really unlocks this acceleration mode. This is kind of it. We'll jump into a few slides about the companies. Josh, I'll let you go first with an overview of Adjust.
Okay, thanks a lot. So Adjust is the mobile measurement company. So that means we provide a range of services. We provide app attribution. So we're analyzing that correlation between advertising and then app installs and events. So that way you can know the effectiveness of your advertising campaigns. We're also an industry leader in anti-fraud. So fraudulent traffic, advertising fraud, that sort of thing, as well as detecting bots and scripted behavior inside of your app. So we are very nearly 380 employees at this point, spread across 15 offices around the world. And so we provide tracking for over 25,000 apps, and that represents over 1 billion daily active users. So we are definitely a key industry player there, and we just see that increasing in the future. So, Evgeny?
Josh, so ironSource, essentially, what we do is focus on building the leading growth engine for mobile games. And this is obviously one of the features that is unlocking a critical capability here. These are some of our clients that we're working with that are utilizing our platform and are enjoying these kind of features for their portfolio of apps. This is a snapshot from App Annie from a couple of weeks ago of the top 20 games and how many of them are actually utilizing the ironSource platform. And at the end of the day, when you think about our product offering, it evolves around the growth loop as a growth engine. We covered UserLevel ad revenue in this webinar, and the ROAS optimizer that is critical for UserLevel ad revenue and for in-app purchase apps, and the combination of those as well. Monetization A/B testing, that is something that also works very well with this product. We want to test different monetization strategies, just like an example I gave around should I show banners or not, and take actions on that. And obviously, to fuel your portfolio, a very smart cross-promotion engine that helps your portfolio grow with an optimization engine that makes sure that the opportunity cost here is maximized. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Josh or myself. Anything else, Josh?
No, that's all for today on our side. So we really hope you enjoyed the content. And like Evgeny said, please don't hesitate to reach out to either ironSource or Adjust. We're very happy to provide you with more details. and any specific use cases as well on anything we covered. So thank you, Evgeny, for joining us, and thanks to everybody watching, and see you next time.